Hey. How are you guys? Happy Wednesday. Hope you're having an amazing day. It's your boy, Matt Gill. I just wanted to pop on real quick and share a story. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Amanda Johnson, who I hadn't talked to in a while. And ironically, she had been thinking about me, and all of a sudden, hey, Terry, all of a sudden she had shown up, and she'd been thinking about me, and her name showed up. And so I wanted to connect with her, and it just happened that we were thinking about each other at the same time. So we were talking today, and we were having a conversation about an incident that occurred back in, I think it was 2014. So for some of you guys that know me, that know that I have always loved hummingbirds. And hummingbirds are one of my spirit animals. And there's just this power and strength and flexibility and ease and speed and grace and ease about, how you doing, Siobhan? Nagalula? I hope I pronounced that name correct. I apologize if I totally just thrashed it. I did not mean to. Trisha, what's up? Trisha, hey, I'm talking about Amanda. You remember Amanda from MTS? I just had a connection with her today and was talking with her. And we were talking about the story. The first time that I was beginning to put together my story, it was the first time that I was thinking about writing a book and getting my message out into the world. And so I went to a retreat that she had about how to put your story together, and how to write your story. And I was really trying to identify, what is my story? What is it? And so hummingbirds have always been my acknowledgement, my confirmation, am I on the right path? I'll ask to see a hummingbird and have them show up, so that way I know, okay, great, I am on the right track, I am doing what I'm supposed to, or whatever. So the hummingbirds have been kind of what I call my spirit animal. So we were having this conversation. What's up, Onika? We were having this conversation about an incident that occurred while I was there at the retreat. So part of my story, when we go back into our stories and what they mean, and the story behind the stories, I wasn't sure whether there was a part of my story that I wanted to put into the book, and it was really the first time that I had really been facing, and actually what part of it was about being gay, and about, do I want to tell the world, and am I ready for that, and all of the negative chatter that was going through my mind. So I decided to go for a walk, and I was like, okay, you know what, I need time to process this. I got to get out of this room. I got to get out of this space and go for a walk and see. But Trisha says, just like your monarch butterfly. Yeah. And I was like, I need to just ask for confirmation. You know how when we know we want something, we feel it inside here, but our minds are looking for the evidence or the confirmation, and we're just like, wow, I need to. It's pronounced Nalula. There, I hope I pronounced it right. Nalula. I hope I pronounced that right. If not, I apologize again. But thank you for writing it out like that. So I was looking for confirmation. I needed to go for a walk to say, is this the right decision? And I asked to see a hummingbird. And I said, all right, God, I call him God, higher power, whatever. I said, God, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, then show me a hummingbird and let me get that confirmation. So I went on this pathway that I knew had to have hummingbirds. I was very intentional in choosing this walkway, because I was like, there's lots of flowers and they have to be flying around. And so I went for a walk for about 35 minutes. And on this walk, I did not see one hummingbird. And I was getting pissed off, because I was like, okay, I feel it, I know it, but why the heck am I not seeing a hummingbird? I just need confirmation. And I was getting so frustrated, and I could see that I was getting to the bottom. So I was started up at this top of the hill, and I started going down, and I was almost to the bottom of the hill, and I was pissed off because I was like, I haven't seen one. This is stupid. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to do it. And as I'm walking down and getting down to the bottom, I happened to glance at this wall. And it stopped me in my tracks when I saw what was on the wall. So I asked to see a hummingbird for confirmation. Okay, follow me. So I'm going to show you. This was the walkway. This was part of the walkway here that I was walking down. This was almost towards the bottom. And I asked to see this hummingbird. And I said, you know, Lord, I need to see, like, show me the hummingbirds. And I was looking up in the air. I was looking at all the plants. Nothing. No hummingbirds anywhere. And then I stopped because I happened to see this on the wall. So this is a hummingbird that was painted on the wall. Painted. So now it's a beautiful hummingbird, right? Like somebody actually took the time to paint that on the wall. Now, in retrospect, I probably should have said, oh, there's my sign. But I got pissed off even more because I was like, that's not what I asked for. Like, I want to get a hummingbird, a live hummingbird that I can see, that I could go through and that's flying around. I want to hear the sounds that they make. Like, I need that confirmation. And I don't want to see a hummingbird that's on the wall. So still in my minicity, whatever, I was still pissed off. I started walking up the hill and I was like, that's not what I asked for. I asked to see a hummingbird. And as I said, I asked to see a hummingbird, I had to stop and I was like, wait a minute. You really just got what you asked for. I asked to see a hummingbird and I got the hummingbird. Now the hummingbird showed up differently than the way that I was expecting it to. I was expecting it to be something that was flying or in plants or would be flying around me or circle around me or something. And it didn't show up. What I realized is, and Steven says, yeah, you weren't specific. I wasn't specific enough. Like I wasn't specific to exactly what I was calling forth or asking for. I got what I asked for, but I didn't have the clarity as to, I want the hummingbird to be flying. I want the to fly all over me or to make the noise. Like I just said, I want a hummingbird. And I got a hummingbird. And it made me realize how often I have asked for things in life and I got them, but they didn't show up the way that I expected to. And as I was having this conversation with Amanda today, it really brought me into even where we are today. You know, as this quarantine and as this coronavirus started, you know, we were saying I don't have enough time to do this. I don't have enough space. There's no, like, my schedule's so busy. And we got what we asked for. We got time, we got space, we got, we had more time with our family. Like we got the things that we asked for, but sometimes they don't show up the way that we expect them to. So one of the lessons that I learned is to be clear. Have clarity on what you're asking for. If you're asking for something, be clear on what it is that you want. Don't be afraid to say, I in relationships, like I'm really asking, what do I want in a partner? What qualities do I want? What do I want them to look like? What type of jokes do we laugh at? Where do we travel at? Like being real specific so that as I'm in my prayers, and as I'm in my meditation, as I'm sending out the energy, as I'm sending out the light into the world to bring in what I want to create in my life, like I want to be really clear on what it is that I'm asking for. The second thing is that things don't always show up. So one, it's clarity. One, being really clear on what are you asking for. Two, being aware that sometimes the gift, sometimes the request shows up in different ways. I still got what I asked for, but it showed me differently. Like it changed, it shifted. Like how often have I asked for something and I got it? It just wasn't really the way that I needed it at that moment. Now it kind of gets a little stranger. So the minute I got that, I was like, wow. And I even took a video, and I have to find the video because it's crazy. because once I got this awareness on my way back up the hill, I started laughing. I was like, okay, God, you're funny. Like, you really got a sense of humor. And all of a sudden, and in this video, I'm having this conversation with God, right? All of a sudden, literally no joke, I had 3 hummingbirds that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just showed up and started flying above me. And what's crazy is when I find the video, I've got to find it somewhere. Got to be in the cloud. As soon as I went through and I'm talking, I'm like, you know, and I got what I asked for. And it didn't show up the way I did. And then all of a sudden you hear the sounds of the hummingbirds. And I stopped in the moment and I looked up and there they were. It was like God was like, all of a sudden, he's like, okay, great. You got the lesson. You got the moment. And it blew me away because I was like, wow. So fast forward, I go back up into the room. I go back in with Amanda and the rest of the people that were there. And Joel, who sometimes is on here, was in that room as well. And I started sharing with what had happened and this BOL, this breakthrough out loud, this aha moment, and started sharing with them what I had seen and what I had just experienced. And one of the ladies that was in the room got up all of a sudden and she just walked out, and we didn't know why. I thought my story was boring her, but she just got up and she went outside. And as I'm still, telling my story and processing, what had happened, all of a sudden she comes running back into the room and she said, Matt, so come here. This is for you. And we all kind of jumped up like, well, what's going on? She goes, this has to be for you. She goes, I was going to the bathroom and there's a hummingbird that's on the ground. And we all kind of looked at each other like, what are you talking about? And we went outside and there was a hummingbird that was on the ground on this pathway to the bathroom. And the bird really looked dead. And I ran up to it and I instantly felt like connected with this hummingbird. I mean, obviously it's my spirit animal and there's this bird that's hurt. And I picked up the bird, and I don't remember exactly what happened. But I put the hummingbird in the palm of my hands, and I had my hand over and I just kept praying. Like, that's all I knew to do. And, I just, like, this poor little thing. And I could see that his tongue, if you've ever seen the tongue of the hummingbird, it's like this translucent, real thin little tongue. And that's how they get the nectar out of the plants. And so I could see that the tongue was hanging outside of its beak. And so as it was in the palm of my hands and I was praying over it, I kept touching the tongue and trying to almost kind of put the tongue back into the beak area. And all of a sudden, the tongue went back into the beak. And I could see the tongue begin to kind of move, and it came out and in, out and in, out and in. And I got worried. I was like, oh, I think it's, I really wish that was filmed, because it was just such a bizarre moment of, like, one, I'm scared. I have this bird in my hand and I thought it was dead, but now it's coming back to life and I'm starting to see it move. And it was one of the first moments that I realized that one of my callings is a healer. Now I'm learning and exploring what it means to be a healer, what it means to, how to use these powers that other people have had, or, energy healers and things like that. And I was very new to this entire world. But it was the first time that I realized that I had something. And this bird, I began to kind of just play with him and get him to kind of sit up. And I could see that he was beginning to move. And I could feel his energy. It was really one of the most bizarre moments. And I just, all I could do was just pray. And before you knew it, the bird started to kind of squirm and readjust itself. And I could see that it was beginning to stand up. And so I knew that I needed to go through and put it close to nature, back into its environment. And so I went up to a tree And once I could see that it was standing up and it was kind of on the right, like here on my hand, it began to just look at me. And I want to show you the picture of the hummingbird. So this is the hummingbird here that I finally was able to put up in the tree. And I just kept praying over it. And we sat there for a good 5 minutes just looking at each other. And I was in prayer over it and just, praying that it would be safe and healthy and that it wasn't hurt. And it was such a bizarre moment of healing. It was truly a gift for me because it allowed for me to see how connected we truly are. There's the animal world, there's the human world, there's the plant world, but we're all energy. Like we're all connected. And it was my moment of tapping into my power, into realizing that God gives us what we ask for and gives us all the tools that we need that are already inside of us. Intuitively, we know. We question ourselves. I question myself. And the more that I just allow myself to follow my spirit, to follow my heart, to operate more with my heart instead of my mind. I think that was probably one of the first times that my prayer, anytime that I talk or anytime that I am about to speak on stage or do a coaching call or, really pour into anybody, my prayer is always clear my mind and prepare my heart and use me as the vessel. Clear my mind, prepare my heart, and use me as your vessel or the vessel. And I realized that God lives here. Our universe, our higher power lives within our heart. And so when I'm not operating from here, from the thoughts, because this is where my negative chatter, I'm not good enough, this is where memory is stored. So all of the stories of when it didn't work, all of the things that unfortunately we have quick access to, they live up here. So if I operate always in my mind, then I'm never going to be able to tap into my heart. So my prayer is clear my mind, prepare my heart, and to use me as your vessel. And that's where I truly believe that prayer came from. And I realized that when we operate from our heart, all of a sudden we have access to the powers that were given to us at birth. The energy that lies within inside of us. The energy that we can all tap into, but we get blocked because we're up here in our minds. And so it was just this beautiful story of connection and a reminder to me today that as I move forward, as I'm working on some projects right now that honestly have me shaking in my boots. I'm not wearing boots. That have me, like my knees are knocking. It's so big, it's so massive, and I want to do more. That all I have to do is just follow my heart. Follow my heart. Follow where I feel God is taking me, and not worry about all of the details. Like it's gonna show up. God is gonna give the one step at a time. He's gonna give okay, now do this. I realized, and I was having a conversation with somebody else the other day on one of the coaching calls, and I said, I've come to realize that I want a memo from God to say, this is what's going to happen, this is how you're going to do it, and give me all of the steps. And one day I asked God, I said, will you just let me know how we're going to do this? And he said, no, because then you're going to get in the way. You're going to mess it up. And it wasn't the answer that I wanted, but I realized that had I known, if God would have said, this is what's going to happen, and you're going to have to go through this, you're going to have to experience this hurt, you're going to be frustrated with this person, you're going to feel taken advantage of by this person, you're going to live a life of doing for other people before you're able to realize that you don't have to do in order to be loved. that you are enough. If you, like, just giving me the list of all the different experiences that I've had to go through to get to this awareness, I would have said, hell no, a long time ago. But then I wouldn't have got the lessons. I wouldn't have got the experience. I wouldn't have been able to have the moment of being able to say, you know what, I've been there. I know what that feels like. And here's how I got through it. So sometimes what we ask for shows up in the most unexpected ways. So my intention of this was, one, to tell you the story, the cool ass story about the hummingbirds, because it was a reminder of it today. But also to encourage you to be aware. One, be aware of your intentions. Be aware of your words. Are you clear in what you're asking for? And are you aware of how things are showing up for you? Like, clarity and awareness are some of the greatest gifts that we have right now. In this time of transformation, in this time of change, in this time of reset, in this time of restoring, in this time of like, this is a re time, rejuvenating, restoring, resetting, like recommitting. Like, be clear, have clarity on who you be. Are you showing up 100% you? Are you giving the world the best version of you? Or are you hiding? March 1st, 2020, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time was the day that my life changed, that for the first time I took a stand for myself. Simply by just telling my story. Simply by speaking my truth. And it's opened up these massive doors. And I know that I've only like licked the frosting of this huge, massive cake. I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go to food right now. But all I've done is I've just licked the frosting and got a little taste of what God has in store for me, what this universe has in store for me. And I wouldn't have been able to do that had it not been showing up 100%. If it hadn't been for standing in my truth, for saying, this is me, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I realize even more and more every single day the power my story has, the power your story has. Like, we connect with one another based on our story. Stan, I see you. He says, enjoy the cake. Yes. Like, your story has the power. Your story has the assets to who you be. So I want to encourage you to move past the fear, move past the fear of judgment, the fear of, for me, it was the fear of rejection. What are people going to say? Are they not going to love me? Are they going to? And you know what? It's so silly. It's so silly, because what I realized is, did I lose very many people? No. And the people that I did lose, we weren't really connected anyway. Like, I am committing to making some more big, bold stands. And so this is my commitment right now. I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm going to go with it. This is my commitment now, is that I'm choosing to make a stand bigger and to speak up more, to use my voice more often. And so let me just say this. If you've been following my journey and you're kind of questioning, like, is this dude for me? Is this the guy that I really want to follow? And you're kind of on the fence, either jump off or get off. Either jump on one side. Because here's the deal. There are going to be some things that we may not agree with, that we may not like, that we may not see eye to eye. I'm going to respect you and your opinion, but I'm not going to live a life of being filtered anymore. There are too many people that I need to impact. My responsibility on this planet is too big. my job and the lives that I have to touch, that I have to show possibility, that I have to create impact in, that is more important than me making you like me. Like, I realized in the last couple months that I've lived a life of wanting to be liked. I did things to be liked versus liking and loving myself and doing what I knew that I needed to do. And so that changes. Thank you, Steve. I see you. I love that we're connected, brother. That changes. So whatever today is, the 13th, my cousin Kimberly's birthday. Happy birthday, Kimberly. Changes today. So this is the notice. That felt good to say. That felt really good to say. So as you begin to move, as you begin to build, have clarity around what you're asking for. Be aware of how it shows up and when it shows up. And be true to you. Because guess what? You are more than enough. All that you have is already inside of you. Sometimes it's just buried underneath a bunch of junk. Our job is to remove that junk, to move it off to the side and get back to the core of who you truly be, of who you were designed to be on this planet, on this experience. And for those of you guys that choose to continue to move on the journey with me, or those that have been on the journey so far, I say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to spend space and time with you, to share my story, to hear your stories, to laugh together, for some of us to cry together, for some of us get into that ugly snot cry, to travel together, to explore together. It's a new season. It's a new day. Let's build together. Let's move forward together with clarity, with direction, awareness, and 100% ourselves. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I see you and I celebrate you. And we'll talk to you soon.